My wife's coworkers pointed at me and laughed, calling me a kept man right in front of the entire company, including the CEO. They had no idea their mockery was about to cost them everything. It all happened at the annual company gala. My wife, Sarah, had recently been promoted, and I was there to support her. I have always been proud of her achievements. Sarah works for a fast-growing tech firm, and she's brilliant at what she does. I, on the other hand, prefer to stay out of the spotlight. I manage our family's investments from home, a quiet life that allows me to support Sarah's demanding career. Her colleagues, however, only saw a man who didn't have a real 9-to-5 job. They saw me as her dependent, a house husband living off her success. The evening started well enough. The ballroom was elegant, filled with the buzz of conversation and clinking glasses. I mingled, making small talk, happy to just be a plus one. Sarah was glowing, and seeing her so happy made my night. But as the dinner progressed, I noticed a group of her colleagues at our table kept glancing my way, whispering and snickering. It was led by a man named Mark, a senior manager known for his arrogance. He seemed to have a particular issue with my presence. During a lull in the conversation, Mark raised his glass, a smug look on his face. "A toast," he announced loudly, "to Sarah, our rising star, and to her husband ... who, OH. What is it you do again?" The table went quiet. All eyes turned to me. I just smiled politely and said, "I manage some private investments." Mark let out a condescending chuckle. "Private investments? Is that what we're calling it these days? Must be nice to have your wife be the breadwinner, eh?" His cronies erupted in laughter. The sound echoed in the suddenly silent room. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, not from embarrassment, but from a slow-burning anger. I glanced at Sarah. She was mortified, her face pale. She tried to intervene, saying, "Mark, that's enough." But he was on a roll. "Oh, come on, Sarah. We're all friends here. We're just amazed you're so successful you can afford to keep a man at home. You're an inspiration to us all." More laughter followed, louder and more cruel this time. The CEO, Mr. Harrison, was at the head of the table. He was an older, distinguished man, and he looked uncomfortable but didn't say anything. He probably saw it as harmless office banter. But I knew this was more than that. This was a public humiliation designed to belittle both me and my wife. My calm demeanor seemed to only egg them on. They saw my silence as weakness, confirmation of their assumptions. Little did they know, my silence was the calm before a storm they couldn't possibly imagine. The humiliation continued for what felt like an eternity. They made jokes about my leisurely lifestyle, asking if I spent my days shopping or watching daytime television. Each jab was a calculated insult. I remained quiet, letting them dig their own graves. I saw Sarah's eyes welling up with tears, and that's when I decided they had gone too far. My quiet private life was my choice, but they had crossed a line by hurting my wife. Their laughter was starting to die down when I finally spoke. "It must be nice," I began, my voice calm but carrying a weight that cut through the room, "to feel so secure in your jobs." That single sentence hung in the air, confusing them. Mark scoffed. "What's that supposed to mean?" I looked past him, directly at the CEO. "Mr. Harrison," I said, my voice steady, "I believe we have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning to discuss the quarterly performance of your executive team." The entire table froze. Mr. Harrison's eyes widened in confusion. "I'm sorry," he stammered. "Do I know you?" The moment they realized their mistake was a moment I will never forget. If you enjoy emotional and dramatic revenge stories, please subscribe for more. I kept my gaze fixed on the CEO. "You don't know me personally, Mr. Harrison, no. We've only ever communicated through our lawyers and fund managers. My name is Alex Sterling. I'm the primary stakeholder of the Sterling Holdings Group." A wave of shock rippled through the room. You could have heard a pin drop. Sterling Holdings Group was the notoriously private investment firm that had acquired a controlling interest in the company 6 months ago. The acquisition had been the talk of the industry, but the owner had remained anonymous, a phantom figure pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And now that phantom was sitting right in front of them, having just been mocked relentlessly. Mark's face went from smug to sheet white in a split second. The color drained from his face as the realization crashed down on him. The other colleagues who had been laughing so loudly now stared at their plates, looking as if they wanted the ground to swallow them whole. They had just insulted the man who, for all intents and purposes, owned their jobs. The man they called a kept man was their ultimate boss. Mr. Harrison's professional demeanor snapped back into place, though I could see the panic in his eyes. He stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Mr. Sterling!" I had no idea. Please forgive the unprofessional behavior of my team. This is completely unacceptable. He shot a furious glare at Mark, whose jaw was practically on the floor. I just gave a small, cold smile. "Unprofessional is one word for it, Mr. Harrison," I said, my voice still calm. "I prefer the term career limiting." I turned my attention to Mark. "You were curious about what I do, Mark. Well, I do this. I evaluate assets. I assess performance. And I decide which parts of the portfolio are underperforming and need to be liquidated." The word liquidated hung in the air like a death sentence. Mark started to stammer. "Mr. Sterling, I am so sorry. It was a joke. Just a stupid joke." "I didn't mean anything by it." "A joke?" I replied, my voice losing its warmth entirely. "You brought my wife to tears. You publicly humiliated me in front of her entire company. You judged my worth based on your shallow, materialistic view of success. That doesn't sound like a joke to me. It sounds like a character flaw. And I don't like character flaws in the companies I own." I stood up, pulling out my wife's chair for her. I gently took her hand. She looked at me, her eyes wide with a mix of shock, confusion, and a glimmer of pride. I gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. I looked back at the CEO. "Mr. Harrison," I said, my voice now firm and decisive. "Our 9 a.m. meeting tomorrow is still on, but the agenda has changed. The first item will be a full review of your senior management team, starting with Mr. Mark and his associates here." I gestured to the terrified faces around the table. "And the second item will be discussing the severance packages for every single person at this table who thought it was appropriate to laugh along." The silence was deafening. The power dynamic had not just shifted, it had been completely annihilated. The arrogant manager and his clique were now reduced to trembling employees begging for their jobs. The CEO was no longer the man in charge. He was now taking orders. And I, the quiet, unassuming husband they had mocked, was now the one holding all the cards. The look of pure terror on their faces was far more satisfying than any angry outburst could have been. As Sarah and I walked out of that ballroom, leaving the stunned silence behind us, I knew one thing for certain: they would never again judge a book by its cover. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more Reddit-style revenge stories.